to Sophie's Voice. I'm here by myself today, so and I've just had a whole heap of technical difficulties, so I'm running a bit late. I'm running half an hour late, so yeah, sorry to keep you all waiting. Anyway, yes, because of that, I'm a bit scattered, but here I am, and what else do I need to say? Welcome. I thought today, to make it more interesting, I just will have a chat with you, and I thought I'd do a drawing while I'm at it. I've been asked if I'd like to be involved in a Sala exhibition, and I said yes. So I thought I better start thinking about that and making some drawings before August. And so the theme of the exhibition is universal, and I thought that's kind of universal. Can anyone see that? I'm not sure you can see that properly, but I thought I'd just do a little sketch of that. I thought that's a nice image. It might be a bit tricky to do while I'm talking, I'm not sure. I do have a few things going on there for my skill level. So yes, welcome everyone. I hope everyone's well. I hope everyone's happy and scanning all right with the change of season that we're going through. Yeah, all that heat is abated, and now we're getting a real taste of the winter settling in. So, yes, so I'll just start drawing, and then at some point I'll give you a look at what I did, good or bad. So the pressure's on for me. Hey, it is indeed. All right. So I just thought I'd have a bit of a chat today. It's going to be hard tonight to stop when I start feeling like I'm actually talking to you. I'll stop and do that. But I'll try to keep drawing. All right. So I was going to talk about, I thought I may as well talk about things that are going on in my life, which is that at the moment I have an unusual situation where a dear old friend of mine is going through a bit of a rough patch. And so I said, you can come and stay with me for a little while if you want. I got a caravan in my backyard. And that's what they've done. And that somebody just happens to be someone I was married to and had 3 babies with. So that happens. And so I'm having an interesting time with someone from my past. And one of the interesting things is our different perspectives on the world situation. So when I went down the rabbit hole, he was very firmly with his feet on the surface of the ground, not going down any rabbit holes. But he and I used to always be able to have really interesting conversations, and I was very frustrated, feeling like I wanted him to see what I was seeing, and but he couldn't see it. He went and had the vax, and so yeah, so he's had other relationships and life has gone on. But so it's interesting to be back talking again about politics, etc. And especially because he and I are seeing the world through very different perspectives. And things like Trump. So for me, like I was more of a mind like him, so I understand that. But I think he finds it very frustrating and distressing that I can't see how awful Trump is, which I sort of do in a way. Like I sort of do, because I always thought he was awful and ridiculous and obnoxious. But I just went on a different journey, and it's interesting to so it's been interesting to have all these things, because we watch YouTube in the evening, and I show him my things, and then he shows me some of his things, and so he's showing me all these terrible things about Trump and all the things that the other side say, and trying to show me how awful he is and what a liar he is and blah blah blah. But I've sort of heard different things, and so I'm not so easily convinced, but then he's giving me some things and I'm going, oh yeah, maybe, And I know other people that I respect who also think Trump, is a real problem, obviously. But yeah, so it's an interesting time. We're all in around these things, what we're seeing and what we're not seeing, what's true and what matters or not, you know. But one thing that's interesting that we're agreeing about is he's been on a bit of a journey discovering about some of the antidepressants that are being prescribed very easily to people these days, and finding that there's a doctor called Dr. Joseph, if you come across him on YouTube, and he's got a particular calling now to help people get off psychiatric meds, because he feels there's a real concern that too many people are being put on these medications without really understanding the potential dangers in them, and that the system's a bit corrupted. And so that sort of feeds into, so we can talk a lot about that in the sense of anyone who's gone down the COVID rabbit holes knows that the whole medical system is corrupted, and that there's real concerns and things that need to be addressed around the medical system that was hijacked to enact what I think believe is a psyop, that COVID was a psyop, and an attack on humanity, and that the fact that he's experiencing that and been interested in that himself is making him a bit more open to the possibility that maybe I know something. So, but yes, it's kind of I was thinking when I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about was that it's sort of reminding me of this, like I've been on this journey around this idea of holism. So holism, I think that's the right word to call what I'm interested in, which is that the idea that there is a sort of a discipline, like I think I'll have to look into it, but so this is my own ideas and I'm just drawing from lots of different places, but interested in the idea that one branch of holism, I think that's what I was trying to say, it would sort of talks in terms of whole-ons, I think. The idea that there are different units. So like one human individual, it would be a whole-on, and a family would be a whole-on, and a community would be a whole-on, and a country would be a whole-on, and the universe, etc. So that's the thing that's interested me, the idea that we are just that idea that within us is a whole structure of parts that become a living thing, and that like a family is that also. So you have a father element, a mother element, and the child element, and that they all function together and become a unit, they become one thing. And I've just sort of become very interested in that idea that that this is somehow the point of life, and the point of sort of how we become mature is the relationship between these different parts, and that they all interact. So, for instance, if you've got a mother part of you, whether you're a man or a woman, that mother part is going to be affected, your mother part is going to be affected by your relationship with your mother, and all your ideas about mothers, the value you have for mothers. If you sort of hate your mother and you're very hostile and you feel pain regarding that, it might make it difficult to integrate that part, or you might have a difficult relationship with that part of you that is connected to the mother element, the mother principle, you might say. And so all these ideas have been floating around in my life for a long time, I guess, because it was very sort of sharply clear to me as a child growing up that I grew up in a family where my parents were separated before I was born, and my mother went on a sort of a strange God journey, which is a whole story in itself. That's kind of interesting, but but the point that I want to make is that that my dad was very atheist, like not just casually atheist, but he was very unbelieving in the sense that he was coming from a rationalist tradition. So his father had been a rationalist, and so the rationalists were sort of early in the 20th century. They got a bit of steam up with this idea that that the answer for humanity was to be rational. That sounds easy, doesn't it? Yeah, just be rational. So the idea was that, like, that I think it was sort of, it got affected by the idea of, which a lot of things did, I think, they got affected by Darwinism. So after Darwin's theory, it sort of set a whole lot of things in motion. And this was one of them, I think, was this idea that humans are evolving. And so, so some people, some clever people, maybe not so clever, but intellectual people, sort of felt like they could see that religion was the problem, because when people have religious thoughts and feelings, they're coming out of an irrational state of mind. But if everyone would just be rational, then everything would be all right. We'd make good decisions, we'd have a good society, everything would be just honky-dory if people would just stop believing nonsense and doing silly things. And so yeah, they thought that seemed like pretty obvious to them. And it sort of became, I think, the idea that we are evolving, and so it was this sort of idea of that once there had been cavemen and they were like, and they, didn't have much language and they just like all feeling and emotion, and that now we were these sort of highly intelligent beings that had this sort of extraordinary rational thought, and that's the way forward, and so we've all got to just become more rational, and so we can give up religion because that's all just part of being primitive, and it's not useful anymore, and like it just causes all the wars and all the problems in the world, and if we just got rid of religion, everything would be all right. So it didn't pan out really that well, as you can imagine, but a lot of people still get affected by that idea, and some people do still kind of feel that that's true, that, and sure, people do crazy things, and people do crazy things for religion, in religion, with irrational thinking, but they also seem to do it without religion. But that in fact it's like, to my mind, it's become like, well, religion is just a way of organising a dimension of being human. And if you sort of pretend that dimension doesn't exist and stop educating it, it doesn't solve anything. It just makes things worse. So yeah, that was my dad's background. So he was very sort of science and rationality kind of oriented, and so I sort of picked up a lot of this idea of thinking about things and being rational, but mind you, I didn't grow up with him, so he's a sort of a side influence on my thinking, but he's there, and he's probably in my genes as well, so it's all there, but so I'd go between my dad's house and my mum's house, and my mum was it was sort of like almost when she left him, she went sort of like the opposite to rationalism. There needs to be another term, not rationalism, but anti-rationalism or irrationalism. It's like she became so suspicious of that sort of spirit of rationalism that disqualifies things that the heart knows, that she became very suspicious and of anything which she would call the intellect. It was almost like that the intellect became like the devil to her in some way. And so in her kind of personal cosmology that I grew up under, after this, like, it became like that, like that God was all just that sort of feeling, or maybe not the heart, maybe it's even lower, maybe it's like the gnosis realm of mystical understanding, and the inner thing that intruded into that and tried to show you reason was the enemy, because it was kind of destroying God in a way or something. So, this is just like as you go along, you're trying to work it out or work it all out. And this is sort of what I've come to work out, because what I felt was, as I was growing up, that I'd go to my dad's house and then I'd come home to my mum, and there was just such a contrast. I mean, not always an obvious contrast, but, as I started processing it all, that like there was this difference, and that they both saw each other as sort of the problem in a way. That my dad kind of had, because he had this rationalist worldview, he sort of felt like religion was a problem. If people were just stop being silly like my mum, then everything would be all right. And that she felt like if people would just believe in God, everything would be all right. And so my sister was more aligned with my dad, and she became an atheist of some sort description, and I was more aligned with my mum, and I became a Christian. Well, there's a story to that, but I was sort of naturally more believing. I was more aligned with that sort of believing side, and was naturally drawn to understand God, interested in God and spiritual things. What was I going to say? Where am I? What? Is anyone out there? Hello? I hope someone watches this. So, I'll show you my drawings so far. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? Yeah, that's kind of nice, isn't it? I thought I'd do some paintings, do maybe 3 paintings of dancing, because I love dancing. Dancing's so important. And Lepus. Yes, so the thing that I started to notice is that it's sort of like my dad had part of the picture and my mum had part of the picture, but they both saw each other as the enemy. So I sort of became aware of this idea that people tend to get hold of the truth that they can see, and then they say that is the truth, and they block out everyone else and say no, anything else that kind of comes along and tries to that threatens it at all is the enemy, and it's not the truth, and so you got to fight off that thing. So I saw it very clearly in my parents, this sort of tendency to see what the other one was carrying as like the thing you've got to fight to protect the truth. And so I started to think, well, the truth must be bigger than either of them, and more. That the truth is, I started to see it as like that we have the ability to tune into different dimensions of the truth. That the truth is bigger. And some people tune in, favour different parts, and other people favour other parts, and that they don't recognise each other. And so I started to feel like, like they sort of became archetypes in my mind of the sort of father and the mother, in the sense of that women will naturally be drawn more into what I would call the mother realm, which is more like the heart realm, which is more about believing and feeling and relationship and connection. And the father realm, the head realm, is more about the rational mind, being detachment. It's a bit detached, your head's a bit detached from your body, and that the masculine or the father is able to detach more from feelings, because there's things, and so it can have oversight and make decisions without being too tossed around by deep feelings, that ability to detach. And so that was kind of the basis of this journey, and it kind of it was replicated between my ex-husband and myself, who's the one who's with me at the moment. So it's interesting to be thinking about these ideas again. Nearly 6 o'clock. And so, yeah. That the, what did I say? Anything? Yeah. I think, did I say everything I wanted to say? I don't know. So yeah, I'm kind of interested in furthering this sort of understanding, because I feel like this is really important, and that this sort of is the spiritual journey, is the reconciling of these parts that seem to be against each other and seem to be in opposition and seem to cancel each other out. That the process of coming into wholeness is, one is forgiveness. That's important. So like, as you forgive people that represent the things in you that you've rejected, as you go through forgiving that on the outside of you, it helps to kind of reconcile your inner world with those principles, and then you become more whole. So I think that's why forgiveness is always an important spiritual principle, because coming into spiritual maturity is coming into wholeness, and you can't do that if you're battling with the very things that you've got to be reconciled with. So I feel like for me, my initial Christian experience was very powerful and very real, and thank God that there was nothing that could shake it. No, even though I got married to someone who was very like my father in the ability to make you kind of see how that it's not really true. God's not true. And you're just making it all up just because you want it to be true, kind of thing. So that was a difficult journey, but I felt like it was my journey. It was something important. It was something running through my family that I had to overcome and get a hold of. And it's nice, quite nice. Yes, so it's like I hit a point in after I got saved, and that was amazing and wonderful, and I'd love to do a testimony about that one day. And I think I didn't do a testimony. I've never really done testimonies because my life so quickly went after my initial experience of salvation, which was amazing and profound. It didn't take long that it started to like devolve, and it started to all the kind of, oh, thank you, darling, all the kind of testimonies that I was hearing in Christianity were, that I got saved, and then this happened, and I got a house, and I got married, and everything came together. My life came together. And so I was waiting for that, like that was going to happen. I was going to, God was going to give me all the things I wanted that I didn't have. But it didn't turn out that way. It just got worse and worse and worse. But in the midst of it, it was like I was like, yeah, thank you, darling. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought now. I better not look at your comments. Thank you, darling, but it's encouraging. Thank you. That I oh yes, so I believed that, I believed it was a very spiritually alive church I was in. So there was this idea that things were going to change, God was going to do stuff, and that was so visceral and real. I knew it was true, but it was also God's going to clean stuff up, and God's going to heal stuff. And so I was up for that too. And it's like I knew there was stuff out of whack with me, and I wanted God to deal with it and go deep. And that was my prayer was, do whatever you got to do. It's okay. I don't mind. And, that, sometimes you pray things you don't understand what it means, till maybe 40 years later you're looking back going, oh, okay, that was that prayer I prayed, because what it felt like was that something to do with the pattern of the whole on of my family created a pattern in me where the father, the masculine, the rational, got capped, and so that then the religious side, because of, like I say, there's this sort of battle between those two things, that in my growing up it felt like that other side got a bit suppressed, and it felt like as God started to deal with me and open things up, that yeah yeah, that's so true, Charlie. That it's like as God, so what happened, the funny thing was meeting my ex-husband, I had an experience of that side of myself, like as if there was a whole realm of my consciousness that I was disassociated from, and that God was opening that up. And so my relationship with Tim sort of reacquainted me with part of myself. So it was like something you knew, but suddenly it's like, like this whole universe within myself was opening up, and it was this sort of rational side. And it was like as though that part of me hadn't experienced salvation yet, which is a really funny idea, but that's what it was like. It's like I had to go through a whole long, difficult time of bringing that wholeness together of those parts. Because obviously it's the rational mind that has more trouble. It's like the heart responds to God, and if you get a touch from God, your heart is open, and you just fall into God's arms, as it were. But the rational mind, like a lot of people, it's not until their rational mind kicks in the young adulthood that they might have had faith, and then they'll start to go, oh, but is it really true? And you start to question things. So that was what it was like. It was like having to, like, as an adult, go through that to come to a point of wholeness, which I've done. That I'm not saying it's all finished. Maybe there's lots more to be done, but certainly that particular conflict between the rational and the non-rational and religious is kind of come to a place of peace. But so it's interesting, with this division, like I say, between things like politics, and there's all this polarization in our culture at the moment, which I think is it's a tactic to stop people from solving problems, because you need all these different parts, and so my ex-husband Tim belongs to a whole side of culture that is looking through a different lens. I've shifted over to this other side now, where I'm seeing it through a different lens, and so it's an exercise. It's really important. We sit and we listen to each other and watch each other's videos, showing those perspectives and trying to have conversations, because I just think it's really important at this time to just keep moving towards shalom peace, which is like a deeper kind of peace. It's not just like, keep the peace, I won't say anything to upset anyone, but it's a deeper peace that lives within you, where all these parts find peace within you. I think I should leave it there, but that's as far as I got with my drawing. Can you see that? I kind of feel happy with that, where it's going, but all right, thank you. Shalom peace, yes, it is. Shalom peace is amazing, and this is what I feel my quest is to. I feel like we're entering into the age of peace, and that's why there's all this sense of division and confusion and disruption and this polarization, because peace is coming, but there is this sort of enemy to peace that is wanting to cause damage, but peace is coming, and we've got to find it within ourselves. Like you can't force anyone else to be in peace. You can't. The only place you can create peace is within yourself. That's primary. And then you carry peace and you give peace wherever you go. Awesome. Shalom. Peace. And then, thank you, Charlie. We'll continue.